how to master your own emotional reality to find the right girlfriend, life partner, or wife. If you're wondering why I'm wearing these gloves, it's because we're high up in the mountains in Germany and it's -5 degrees at least, and it's suboptimal conditions to be filming videos here. Nonetheless, we're out and we're doing this. Today, you will get an absolute masterclass when it comes to the crafting and the shaping of your own inner game. Because yes, when it comes to dating and communicating, there is an outer game component. Absolutely, for sure. The skill set, the mechanics, but the inner game is way, way, way more important. It's not either or. It's not a false dichotomy. Both absolutely matters. But the inner game is what we're going to talk about here in depth today. The very first thing that you need to do is to write down 3 questions. Jorge Bucay wrote in his book La Tres Preguntas, or however you want to say it, or Die drei Fragen in German, the 3 questions, that there are 3 questions that will serve as a fundamental building block for you to orient yourself towards and then find somebody that will match what you're even about. The first question is, who am I? The second question is, where am I going? And the third question is, with whom? The first question, who am I, relates to the values you have, what you stand for, what you stand against. What must people never say about you at your funeral? What are you about at your core? This is absolutely fundamental, because if you don't know what your values are, politically, religiously, even though you could argue that religion and politics are just symptomatic of deeper values that you hold, if you don't know what they are, then you'll never be able to attract somebody who you're compatible with. Because remember, to find an amazing girlfriend or wife, you have to be highly compatible. Alignment is the greatest determinant of success. So write down, who am I? And that goes into detail. What do I want my life to look like in 20 years, in 5 years, in 7 years? Well, that kind of goes into question 2, where am I going? What are my goals? Once you've written down the values in detail, and you should write pages upon pages, then you look at, okay, in detail, what do I want the vision for my life to be? Even if you're already doing very well, your career or your business. Growth equals happiness. Progress equals happiness. If you don't make progress, then you'll never feel alive. And women value ambition more than current success. And if you want to feel alive in this world, you have to have a tomorrow that is greater than today. If you're not aiming for a tomorrow that is greater than today, you will burn out. And you'll burn out not because you work too much. Yes, that can be the case. But because you don't enjoy what you're doing, because you don't believe that the vision is ultimately worth it. Where are you going? What excites you? And once you've written down the clear vision, then you could go to step 3, which is with whom? What kind of a woman do I want by my side? Also, what kind of quality male friends do I want to have by my side? And again, depth matters so much more than width. This is not about having as many relationships as possible, but it's about having a couple of core ones. People who will work, who will walk to the end of the world with you, who are by your side. And when it comes to this, I really want you to take your time, because it might be one of the most important exercises you'll ever do in your life, especially the 3rd step, writing down in detail what you're looking for. Because most men have no idea. They have no idea what they're looking for. And that's why they end up with women who aren't right for them. Maybe women that they have great chemistry with, but somebody you're not compatible with. And then it leads to drama. And then it leads to your first divorce. Then you lose half your shit. And then you will end up wasting time. And most importantly, your happiness. It is absolutely crucial that you write down what your ideal partner would look like. And this is not about aiming for perfection, but it is about not limiting yourself. Because if you are professional in your career or your business, you have been rewarded for thinking very logically and to look for what's wrong. But looking for what's wrong is only ever going to get you so far. And you limit yourself in your own mind. You limit yourself as to what you believe is possible for you. Les Brown says most people fail in life not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit. Why have you aimed so low? Aim high. Aim for somebody you're physically attracted to. Doesn't have to be a Victoria's Secret supermodel, but somebody you're attracted to. What would somebody be like who has an amazing personality for you? What would it look like if somebody had a really high IQ and you're able to have intellectually stimulating conversations? What would it be like if you're driving down some mountain road together, you're skiing, you're doing whatever you want to do, you're raising your family? Write down detailed situations and make it exciting. Play a song while you're writing it. Make sure you're coming from an inspired place and do not limit yourself. This primes what Tony Robbins called your reticular activating system, your selective focus. You won't even be able to detect or notice an amazing woman in front of you if you haven't written this down. You won't even be able to differentiate who's right for you and who isn't. Yes, the experience really matters, and you need to get a lot more quality dates to even taste the enough of what the world has to offer, enough flavors. Experience is definitely part of it because you probably haven't had nearly enough. But at the same time, it is also important that you reflect and that you let yourself be inspired and that you go to a place, maybe go up in the mountains, go into a forest, go somewhere in nature. If it's at home, no problem. But go to a place where you're inspired. Do something, ideally after a workout, and then you write. And you write from a state of not expectation, but appreciation. Appreciating what life has to offer you, and from a sense of curious anticipation, knowing that it's already on its way. Not waiting for God to deliver it to you while you sit there passively, but understanding that if you take action, then you will become more lucky. So you come from that place and then you write it down. And then you look at it and you go, okay, this is who I am. This is where I'm going. This is the type of woman I want to have by my side. Extremely important. That is the absolute first building block. And I want you to take your time with it. If you don't do this, if you skip this exercise, I can tell you, you're not going to find that person. I've had clients who for a year or two refused to do that exercise. 1 or 2. And then they ended up dating women who weren't right for them. Yeah, we got them great dates, but it was only after they completed that exercise that they were able to orient themselves towards somebody who was actually right for them. It is not an optional suggestion that I'm giving you here. It is really a must-have. The next thing is being outcome-oriented, starting with the end in mind. And we've kind of alluded to that in the first point when you write down your vision of your ideal partner. But I really want you to take it to the extreme that you make every day, every week, every month about finding that person. Not the whole day, and it's not a 40-hour-a-week commitment. This really only takes 5 to 10 hours a week. Dating really only takes 5 to 10 hours a week. But every single day, I want you to do something to move yourself closer to that desired outcome of a beautiful relationship, an amazing woman who's by your side. Every single day, do something. And even if it's just 7 minutes a day on dating apps, sending a couple of messages on Instagram, doing a couple of approaches, do something. Go socialize. Your brain needs social contact. Start with the end in mind, and it means visualizing. And visualizing doesn't take 17 minutes, but can you spend a minute every morning? Can you spend 2 minutes at night visualizing yourself being already there? Because the vision of you having already achieved that outcome is going to create enough certainty within you to then do what is required. Start with the outcome in mind. And it's not something that you do once in a while. It is something you have to do consistently every single day. The next thing is progress equals happiness. It means that you don't have to achieve the outcome today for you to feel excited. For you to feel absolutely confident and certain, you simply have to make progress. Because what robs you of energy is you stagnating. Because things in life, they don't stay the same. They either grow or they deteriorate. So if you're not making progress on an at least weekly basis towards that outcome, you'll get frustrated. And maybe you've had that with dating apps. You almost feel like it's not even worth it to put yourself out there anymore. Yeah, because you haven't made progress. Progress every single day. And this is what makes things hard. If you have your own business, for example, in the early days, that's why it was hard, because of the uncertainty. Because you didn't know if it was going to work or not. We're going to talk about creating certainty within yourself in a couple of minutes. But making progress creates certainty. Visualizing creates certainty. Every single day, you have to do something that moves you closer towards that goal. And when things don't go according to plan, you're texting with a lady and she doesn't text you back, or you're going on a date, you think the date went well, and then it didn't go well. These little speed bumps are going to occur every once in a while. Now, obviously, you need to get the right strategies. And if you get the right coaches, then you can absolutely minimize those for sure. And it'll be a much more enjoyable experience. But setbacks and quote unquote temporary failure is always going to happen. Rejection is a natural part of the process. Every once in a while, things are not going to go according to plan. That is a normal part of human existence. And the more you resist it, the more it'll cause friction and tension within you. So in those moments when you're frustrated, you have to fall back on process. You have to have a process that works. And you have to understand that if you do enough approaches in person, you send enough messages on Instagram, you use dating apps effectively, you will get enough quality dates to find a quality woman. You will, but you cannot get too excited about any particular individual. You have to be very, very stoic. That's something that I recommend to my clients, because most of us as men, we get way too excited about a lady who hasn't even shown us that much of an investment yet. She hasn't even invested in you yet. And you're already imagining yourself having a family with her, making love, traveling the world. Be stoic. Up until you've dated her for a month or two, I'll be extremely stoic. And it's much easier to be abundant and stoic if you actually are abundant and you actually have quality options. So you do have to live in the realm of objective reality. That's why there is an outer game component. But mentally, you always have to remind yourself, process. You lose one, next. The process always works. What I'm offering you here works. We're not Elon Musk trying to build a rocket, flying to space. There is no utter uncertainty. This works. But if you meet the KPIs, if you meet certain weekly and monthly KPIs in terms of socializing and putting yourself out there, and you work on your communication skills, if you do what's necessary, it always works. But in those moments of frustration and temporary setback, you have to fall back on process. The next step when it comes to mastering your inner game is creating a powerful mental and emotional state, creating certainty within you. How to create confidence? How do you create this ultimate level of certainty that allows you to keep going? Now, all of this ties into the mastering of your mental and emotional state. But now we're going to look at what you can do in the moment. What are habits you can actually use on a day-to-day basis that will allow you to feel as good as humanly possible? The very first thing, the most important habit of my life, without exaggeration, has always been the gym. Meditation is amazing. A lot of other tools that I'm going to offer you here today are amazing, but none of this matters nearly as much as the gym. And it's not about your biceps. But if you work out, you change your entire neurology. And by the way, people say, oh, I can't work out on holidays. I'm visiting my mother. We're in the south of Germany here. I just do 300 push-ups. Takes an hour. Fine. I do 10 sets of 30. That's it. I might even do 500. Takes a bit longer, an hour and a half or 2 hours even. It is absolutely vitally important that you work out every single day or at least 3 times a week. I try to work out every day. Doesn't always work. But my minimum, my absolute must-have minimum that I have done forever is 3 times a week. And the only time I don't do that is if I'm really, really sick. The gym is the single most important habit. Why? Because it changes physiology. Because if we look at Tony Robbins' triad, we have physiology as one of the biggest levers to instantly change your mental and emotional state. And then you have your focus and you have your inner dialogue. The inner dialogue and the focus we're going to touch on in a moment. But physiology is the single most important one. Getting sunlight. Andrew Huberman talks about it. In the morning, immediately, 5 to 10 minutes of direct sunlight. Don't look into the sun immediately, but look roughly into the direction of the sun, or go for a walk for an hour every single day. The science is clear. If you don't get enough sun into your eyes, and the only reason I'm wearing sunglasses right now is because the sun is so bright up here that I'd be squinting and I wouldn't be able to do this video very well, but you do want to get sunlight into your eyes. Don't wear sunglasses all the time. Don't look into the sun because that's going to damage parts of your eyes, obviously. But if you're going for a walk, make sure you get sunlight into your eyes. It is an unbelievable hack that I've started taking serious 2.5-ish years ago that I've learned from Andrew Huberman. Every single day, you want to get sunlight. These 2 things alone will boost your mental and emotional clarity, your memory, your focus, your overall mood, your state. It'll have a massive impact. The next tool that you can use to change your physiology is affirmations, or as Tony Robbins calls it, incantations. And this has gotten a bit of a bad reputation in society because it sounds a bit woo-woo. Trust me, I'm German. I'm very much based in objective reality. I don't believe in things if they sound a little bit too out there, but I am willing to try things, and I am willing to let my own experience be the ultimate judge as to whether something has utility or it doesn't. Affirmations are the key. Now, Tony Robbins combines affirmations with a change in physiology and with wild hand gestures and an increase in volume and with additional certainty in your voice. If you do that, you will be able to change your physiology so drastically, so rapidly, and you change your focus and you change your dialogue that you will have the most instant, rapid change of how you feel. Now, what you affirm is entirely up to you. Tony Robbins has certain affirmations that he offers. A very simple one is every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. I'm f***ing unstoppable. The song Can't Be Touched by Roy Jones is a really good affirmation. If you're in the gym, you're boxing, and then you're singing it, that works very well, but you have to do it. Here's my invitation. It sounds a bit silly. If you've never done it, take some affirmation, write something down that's empowering, put on, now we are free. Go to YouTube, the Gladiator song, Now We Are Free, the 4 to 8 minute version, and you repeat that for 4 or 8 minutes straight, and you start screaming at the top of your lungs, and tell me if you don't feel massively differently. Tell me if you don't feel stronger. Tell me if you don't feel instantly more confident. This works. Trust me, I've done this for a very long time. Part of the reason you or other people rely on alcohol, maybe not you, maybe somebody you know, or on other mental stimulants for energy is because they don't have these tools available to themselves. Part of the reason men drink is because they don't know how to create enough certainty and confidence within themselves to do the approach. And people might think, oh, that's a bit crazy. Really? That's crazy? To me, it's crazy to inhale a neurotoxin, to ingest a neurotoxin, to boost your state with caffeine, to depend on that. You'd have to drink several of those a day. Why don't you do this several times a day? It has zero negative downside. It boosts your testosterone. It boosts your dopamine. It is one of the healthiest things you could ever do. I could go into physiology for hours. There's a lot of tools. The last one that I want to leave you with before I want to continue, because we have a lot more to cover here today, is the way you walk. Because how you're going is how it's going, is as Gunther Schmidt says. Gunther Schmidt, one of Germany's best psychologists. He says that the way we're walking has a massive, immediate, measurable impact on how we feel. You know that when we feel a little bit down, our body language is different than if we feel great. Now, you can't play the game in reverse. You can change the way you use your body and use your body the way you would if you felt great, and that in turn will create a more empowering mental and emotional state. It's called priming. Have you ever seen the video of Conor McGregor walking through the octagon, swinging his arms? And you don't have to do that. If you're alone at home and nobody's watching you, I'd invite you to do that and try it out and see how you feel. But make a little shift from here to pull your shoulders back and add a little bit of swag. Put your headphones in while you're walking down the street. Still calibrated. Don't become a crazy person. But instead of this. You do that for 5 minutes. You will feel measurably differently. It changes your neurochemistry. Please, every time you walk anywhere, anytime you say something, you're hypnotizing yourself, which means you're putting yourself in a trance, which means you're creating either an empowering or a disempowering mental and emotional state. If there's one tool that I can give you that will eliminate most of the unnecessary suffering you're already experiencing, it's this. It's learning to take charge of your mental and your emotional state, because then you don't have to suffer. You don't. Pain happens, but suffering is optional. We're all going to experience undesirable emotions at times, but how long are we going to stay there? And it depends on you taking control of your physiology first. And then it's obviously focus. What do I allow myself to focus on? In one of the past videos, I'm not sure if you already uploaded it, the one that we filmed in Miami, or if we're going to upload it yet, we've talked about focus in detail. So I don't want to go into it too much, but the difference between thoughts we actively think and thoughts that just arise. But let me give you a brief version of it here. You are not the thoughts that pop into your mind. Thoughts come and go. Jack Kornfield says, the mind has no pride. The mind secretes thoughts. That's what the mind does. But whether you associate with a thought, whether you believe a thought, whether you empower a thought, that makes all the difference, and that is entirely up to you. And the only thoughts that have power over you are the ones you choose to believe. So what's your habit of focusing on? Do you focus on what you have or what you don't have? Do you focus on what you can control or what you can't control? Do you focus on whether she's going to text you back or whether the date is going to go well? Or are you focusing on communicating authentically? On learning the dynamics of attraction? On learning how to build a man-to-woman connection? Do you focus on putting your best foot forward? The single best little focus hack while you're on the date is to tell yourself, if this is meant to be with this one lady, there's nothing in the world that I can do to mess this up. If this is not meant to be, there's nothing in the world that I can do to make it work. Now, obviously, you still have blind spots in your communication. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this. You have to improve your communication skills. Of course. But while you're on the date, being analytical doesn't help you. So focusing on what you can control and letting go creates more confidence in the moment, which then increases the probability that you actually communicate more effectively, because certainty is one of many important elements of effective communication. So again, a little focus redirect while you're on the date. If this is meant to be with this woman, there's nothing in the world that I can do to mess this up. And if it's not meant to be, there's nothing in the world that I can do to make it work. And then ask yourself, what do I focus on a day-to-day basis? And then you have to catch yourself and not judge yourself, but say, the old pattern of focusing on what I don't have and what could go wrong. Fear, stress, anger, sadness. Thank you so much for your opinion. I don't need to do that anymore. Thank you very much. And then you redirect your focus. How? With a question. What can I appreciate right now? What can I control right now? What can I focus on that would empower me right now? What constructive actions can I take right now? Who can I love right now? And you ask yourself, and you demand an answer. And if you demand an answer, your brain is going to give you one. But you have to ask with enough certainty and with enough repetition. If you do that, your brain is going to come up with a response. And then the last thing, the last part of Tony Robbins' triad, is your inner dialogue. How do you talk to yourself on a day-to-day basis? Most of you, if you're doing well in your career or your business or at least one of your hobbies, you're probably very self-critical. And that's okay to a point. Self-criticalness, being harsh on yourself, putting pressure on yourself, has utility up to the point of diminishing returns. Up until it doesn't. And then it becomes disempowering. Every now and then expecting more of yourself is amazing. That's great. But you have to also become your own best fan. If you don't say, this approach was amazing, that message that I sent was awesome, the way I did this was amazing. If you don't actually utter empowering words to yourself in your mind or out loud, nobody else will do it for you. And you will never feel as confident as you otherwise could. And it's not enough to have heard it. You actually have to say the words in your head. This was fucking awesome. Who else would be able to do what I just did? Did you see that message? Did you see how it just got rejected? That was so cool. That was awesome. Because all of these people wouldn't have done it. They didn't have the courage to do that. And you start talking to yourself like that. And in the beginning, it's going to feel a bit strange. Why? Because you think it's authentic to be self-critical. Oh, I'm keeping it real. Yeah, real negative. Who says that it's more authentic to be negative than to be positive? You got to be optimistic. And optimism is something we're going to talk about later. But make a decision to cut out a negative inner dialogue. And that does not mean that disempowering thoughts won't pop into your head every once in a while. They absolutely will. That being said, when you catch yourself having those thoughts, you go back to, what can I focus on that I can appreciate? And then you override the negative dialogue with a positive one. It works. You will never be able to keep the right woman around or attract her in the first place if you're not exuding a sense of positivity and confidence, which comes in part largely from your own inner dialogue. Take these practical tips that I've given you so far, and there's a lot more to come. You want to stay for the duration of this entire video. Trust me. Put them into practice, and your life quality is going to enhance so drastically. The next step, resistance versus non-resistance and presence. Whatever you resist persists. I want you to live in drive and in action. I want you to feel empowered every single day. When there's an obstacle, there's a rejection, you push through. That doesn't mean that you just push through with this one particular individual. That's not what I mean. You obviously accept the rejection immediately. If a woman is ever uncomfortable, you leave her alone. You create space instantaneously. 100%. You always want to make sure they're comfortable. But what I mean is you just go to the next person, you go to the next person, you go to the next person. You look whatever you're afraid of in the eye and you go right through. You need to develop that warrior mentality in your dating and your relationship life as well. You've already developed it in your career or your business or one hobby. This grit, this perseverance, action. And you need to transfer that into your dating and your relationship life. Yes, but you also have to learn to let go and not resist. Because when you're out there socializing, you, on the one hand, have to have the warrior inside of you that gives you this drive. But at the same time, you can't come across like that because people will think of you as a little weird. Because in social interactions, you have to be easy and calm and relaxed and chill. You can't be needy. You can't come across as weird. So as much as you have to train taking action and breaking through, it's also good to learn to let go and relax and to not resist. And this is where meditation comes into play. Meditation basically means allowing what is, being in a state of non-resistance, and remembering, as Eckhart Tolle says, that you don't have problems right now. Problems only exist if you go to the past or you go to the future. In this very moment, what problems do you have? She didn't text me back. That's only a thought. Oh, what if the date doesn't go well? She left me. These are only thoughts. Only in the realm of thought is there a problem. Checking if the mic is still there. In this very moment, what problems do you have? Right here, right now. And now your brain, your mind might go, we have all these issues. I'm still single. That's not a problem. What do you mean it's not a problem? Why am I listening to this video? You're supposed to help me solve this. You're supposed to help me find someone. Of course, I understand. And that's what we're doing. But to get there, it's useful to be in a state of non-resistance and ease and relaxation in your interactions with women. So understand, as a reminder, read, by the way, The Power of Now or New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, that problems only exist in the realm of thought. Right here, right now. Focus on your breath. Feel it. Don't actively breathe it. It breathes itself. Just feel it. What problems do you have? Zero. Doesn't exist. Oh, I just got a rejection. It's only the story you tell yourself. And then obviously the meaning you give the situation. I'm going to go back to presence and non-resistance in a moment. But the thing that's ultimately going to determine whether you suffer or not is the meaning you give the situation. She rejected me, therefore what? I'm not lovable. Yeah, obviously you're going to suffer if that's the meaning you give the situation. But if somebody rejects you and you give that the meaning that, wow, that's amazing because I could have only gotten rejected if I have taken action, therefore me getting rejected makes me better than all these other people. And now I know this is ego talk, but in that moment when you feel this thing from a rejection, it's perfectly fine to dip into ego, take action, and then go back to higher levels of motivation. That's fine. But in the moment when you feel a rejection, it's okay to go into your ego for a moment. The meaning you give a situation is going to determine your emotional reality. These emotions will then determine what type of actions you're going to take, constructive or destructive actions. So, Tony Robbins says you have to become a master of meaning. Whenever something happens and you feel bad, ask yourself this magic question. What is the meaning I've given the situation that's making me suffer? And if you're still not sure, then say, this thing happening means, and then you just fill in the blank, and what comes up first, that's the meaning you've given it. And then you simply say, what else could this mean? Well, the date didn't go well, and I feel shit. Why do you feel shit? Not because the date didn't go well. It had nothing to do with the date not going well. It's the meaning you give the situation. The date didn't go well, therefore dating doesn't work, and I'll stay alone forever. Yeah, well, then I would feel bad too. But oftentimes you unconsciously create the meaning. You're not even aware of the meaning you create, and then you suffer. Of course, that's what happens. But if you make it conscious, if you make the meaning-making process conscious, then you have control about your mental and your emotional reality. Okay, the date didn't go well. What else could this mean? Well, that we were not compatible. Okay, great. And it immediately shifts your mental and emotional reality, which then allows you to take better action. It doesn't just change your emotions so you can just zen out and do nothing and meditate in the mountains. No, the shift in emotions will then let you take action. And by the way, also when you feel pain, remind yourself, pain is supposed to move us into action. It is not supposed to make us suffer. Become very conscious of the meaning you give the situation. But coming back to presence and non-resistance, whatever is going on, allow it. Allow it to be there. Imagine yourself to be a space of loving awareness, as Jack Kornfield calls it. You're not the emotion. You're not the thought. They just arise within a space of loving awareness. That is you. What if, for the sake of the argument, just as a game, just as an exercise, you were to define yourself as a space of loving awareness? What then? How would you feel? Well, there's emotions that arise. Yeah, but you watch them. They arise within you. Mind like sky meditation. They come up. And now you're socializing and she says something. And you find yourself emotionally reaching because that's the old habit you had. And you remember, I'm no longer going to do this. I will no longer depend on her validation for me to feel certain. That's an old pattern. And you become aware of the old pattern. You see how it fires and you give it no energy and you get into no resistance, because having thoughts that don't serve you is always going to come. They're always going to happen. But whether you resist them or not, that also has an impact on how much momentum they're going to gather, because meditation doesn't mean suppressing these thoughts. It doesn't mean not having them. It just means allowing them to arise. Okay, watching them, refocusing on your breath and letting them go. Letting them go does not mean suppressing them. It means giving them space, not resisting. Whatever you resist persists. Accept it and then ask yourself, what can I do right now? And then you focus back on action. There's only ever two things to do. You either focus on your breath and you meditate and you're present to the moment and you enjoy and you allow this experience of life to unfold in front of you in its fullness, or you take action. There's only meditation or action. That's all there is. There's only you being consciously, lovingly aware of being conscious or lovingly aware of what's going on, or you take action. That's it. And the more you can be in a state of non-resistance, letting go, relaxing physically, the more effective you're going to be in your communication, because you don't want to be tense on a date. On a date, you want to be totally relaxed and laugh and tease her. And when you feel a little bit of nervousness, you can say, excitement. I'm a little bit nervous. Great, means that I'm alive. And you use all these tools that I'm giving you to improve your mental and emotional state. And that in turn improves your communication skills. Because yes, communication skills are a skill set. You need to learn the how. And by the way, if you want us to help you with that personally, just apply for a free initial consultation call. But at the same time, they also depend on your mental and emotional state. There's something called state-dependent memory. Your ability to communicate effectively on a date also depends on... So unfortunately, I kept talking for another half an hour, but the camera died. And since I was up on that mountain by myself, well, my mother was with me, but she was in the restaurant, I just kept ranting. So we're back in Dublin now, flew all the way here, so we're going to continue, no problem. Picking back up where we left off. Resistance, or a lack thereof, and presence. You want to have a macro-analytical approach to your dating and your relationship life. You want to understand that you have blind spots in your communication that lead to women losing interest in you. That's a fact. You lack a skill set, but it's just a skill set. You need to analyze it, look at where you've gone wrong, change your approach, and do better. But while you're with the other person, or while you're out introducing yourself to new people, being analytical in the moment, getting stuck in your head does not help you with being your most authentic and attractive self. You have to drop into presence. Let me offer you one affirmation that's really powerful and helpful. When you're with her, the only thing you should tell yourself is that if this is meant to be, there's nothing in the world that I can do to mess this up. And if this is not meant to be, there's nothing in the world that I can do to make it work. You want to be present. You ground yourself in the present moment, one, by practicing meditation, but also simply by redirecting your focus with internal affirmations. And it's not some woo-woo nonsense saying, I'm not ginger, I'm not ginger, I'm not ginger. That's not what I'm talking about. But you can simply say, if this is meant to be with this one individual lady who's in front of me on this one day right now, then there's nothing in the world that I can do to mess it up. Don't draw your validation from an external frame of reference. You got to have an internal frame of reference. Being present, allowing to arise in the situation, whatever may come. And if you're somebody who's doing well in his career or his business, if you're an achiever, a high performer, you like to control things, which is good. Because if you're somewhat responsible, you controlling things means the probability that you're going to get a good outcome and that other people are going to benefit from it is a lot higher. But your need for control in the moment is going to make you come across as weird and overly needy and desperate. So you want to be fully present and allow whatever outcome life may present to you in the form of this date. You just take it. Say, give it to me. Let me enjoy this. If you roll up on the date needing a particular outcome, needing it to go well with this one individual lady, you're already screwed. That's why you need to create abundance for yourself. Get enough quality dates. Because it's very easy to have an abundant state of mind if you have a date lined up in a couple of dates. So don't ever need one particular outcome. Just enjoy the date in and of itself. Can you enjoy the banter? Can you enjoy the humor? Can you enjoy the oversharing, the storytelling, the connection? Even if you're not meant to be, even if you realize 45 minutes, an hour into the date that you're really not right for one another, can you still connect? Can you still spend another 45 minutes that's enjoyable? By the way, on a side note, if you recognize 7 minutes in that your values truly aren't aligned or that she catfished you, then you are allowed to move on immediately and you don't owe anybody any bit of your time whatsoever. You really don't owe anybody any time. So if you recognize you're not right for one another, just leave and say, you know what? This isn't you. This is me. This isn't right for us. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time either. So we better move on. Ground yourself in the present moment and just enjoy the situation. Be present moment focused when you're with them as opposed to outcome focused. Macro outcome focused, micro present moment focused. The next point is gratitude. In life, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And usually I talk about that from a behavioral standpoint. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But there is some form of an energetic spiritual component to this life where if you have a gratitude practice and you focus on what you're grateful for, the friends you have, the family members you have, the body you have, the more you resonate with gratitude, the more you're going to attract things to be grateful for. That is a fact of life. And also the instantaneous reward, by the way, regardless of any particular future outcome, is happiness. Because you can't be fearful or stressed or angry if you feel grateful. If you're truly grateful and you ask yourself, what could I be grateful for in this life? I know things might be stressful right now, but if you really want to, what would be a person, a circumstance, a gift from life, from God that you haven't earned, that was just given to you that you could be grateful for? What is that? And the more you come from that frame, the happier you're going to be, the more attractive you're going to be at an energetic level. And remember, I'm very German. I'm very much based in objective reality. I don't spend a lot of time in woo-woo land, but this is a fact of life. The more you resonate with gratitude, the more attractive you will be as a man to the right caliber of woman. Because, by the way, what's going to happen is the more you resonate with gratitude, and you have a simple 5 to 7 minute gratitude practice every day, that's all it takes, doesn't take an hour, 5 to 7 minutes, the more you're going to repel women who don't resonate with that. The more you will instantly push women away who operate almost at a lower frequency. People who are really in a pain body, as Eckhart Tolle calls it, or whose emotional home is that of pain. You will start repelling those people instantaneously. And you might even be confused because she might look very attractive on the outside and you wonder, why do I get rejected by this type of a lady? Well, you know when you look into somebody's eyes and you can see they're half dead? They're like this. They're not half dead, but they have built up walls around their heart as a protective mechanism, and you look at them. Those types of people you're going to repel very quickly. The more you become alive in and of itself. That doesn't mean that those people can't fix it. They can change it instantly if they wanted to, but most of them don't want to. So you're going to start repelling the wrong people automatically, which is a beautiful thing because you're not supposed to make it work with the wrong people. One of the worst things you can try to do as a man is make it work with the wrong woman. That's going to lead to a divorce. You're going to end up in a relationship with a woman that you're not truly physically attracted to. You're going to have children that are going to grow up in a household where the father is half depressed, tries to leave the home as often as possible. That's exactly what's going to happen. But the more you foster a sense of gratitude within yourself, the more you will attract women who resonate with that as well, who have that level of positive energy, who have a positive mental and emotional home. And we all get stressed at times, of course. But where do you live? And where does she live? One of another gold nugget here, most important qualification criteria you could ever look for in a woman is high self-esteem. It's high self-esteem, an emotional home of happiness and fulfillment. Does she depend on you to make her happy? Of course, in a way. But is she naturally already happy? Or is she miserable and sad and lonely and angry and stressed and fearful until you come and temporarily fix it? And then she goes right back into that mode. And again, she can fix it. She can create new emotional habits for herself. But most people will never do that. So you have to refuse to date for potential. You have to date for actuality. Next, handling rejection effectively. How do you handle rejection effectively? First of all, you have to understand that she was supposed to reject you, because if she rejects you, it's either because you made mistakes in your communication and you deserved to lose in that moment, and it says nothing about your desirability in general as a man. It's just a reflection of a lack of skills that you currently have, or it's simply a lack of compatibility. She might just not like your face. Lots of women don't like gingers, trust me. And some of them are kind of ambiguous towards it. They would go with it, they might not, but some really like it. So it might just be that she's not part of your target audience, and that's perfectly fine. So she was supposed to reject you. Just understand that if she was your mother, your daughter, or your sister, you wouldn't want her to reject any man who she's not fully interested in. It is amazing. The problem is the meaning you give the situation. When you get rejected, you give it the meaning that, oh, I'm not desirable as a man. Ask yourself this. Getting rejected by a woman I really like means, complete the sentence right now and follow your gut instinct. Getting rejected by a woman that I really like means I'll never figure this out. I'm not lovable. I can never find somebody that I'm truly compatible with. Yeah, if that's the meaning you give the situation, then you're going to suffer. Because we as human beings, as I alluded to earlier, are meaning-making machines. So change the meaning you give it and say, must be a lack of compatibility. She's probably a lesbian. Haha. Find something funny in the moment that makes you laugh, that changes the mental and emotional reality, that then allows you to take better actions. The way you handle rejection effectively also is by exposing yourself to more rejection. You haven't gotten rejected nearly enough. I've gotten rejected more times than you've ever made love to yourself. Trust me. Now, I might say, David, that's impossible. My hand and I, we have a rather unique relationship. I get it. I understand. I know how much you love your hand. Your hand is probably a 7. I understand. But if you go out and you get rejected a couple of times more, then you realize it's not as big a deal as you initially anticipated. Your brain thinks you're going to die. That's the problem. Your brain thinks you're going to die when you get a rejection. Anything that you're afraid of ultimately points to death. Your brain equates fear taken to the superlative, to its extreme, with death. So the more you expose yourself to what you're afraid of, the more you look whatever you're afraid of in the eye, the more you walk right through it, the more your brain realizes, oh, I didn't die. I survived. And then stress levels calm down because your brain's job is to help you survive. It is not to make you happy. So your brain will start feeding you with fear every once in a while. And if you give in, it'll build these walls, these fearful walls around you. And then you'll live a very limited existence. So what you do is you look whatever you're afraid of in the eye, bam, and you go right through. This is how you don't just leave your comfort zone, but you expand your comfort zone. So just expose yourself to the threatening stimulus of rejection more and more often. I have a video on my YouTube channel here called How to Overcome Your Fear of Talking to Women, where I explain progressive desensitization in detail. Expose yourself. Do it. Or you just change your state so rapidly with the tools we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes, or we've talked about already. I don't remember what I talked about on the mountain. Going to check the list in a second. That you can easily do what you were afraid of. Look whatever you're afraid of in the eye, walk through it, and you expand your comfort zone. And the world becomes your playground, and you'll feel connected and truly at home in the world because you'll be able to connect to more people. And by the way, that is a skill set that's not just relevant for the dating process. It'll help you in your relationship as well, because she will find you more desirable if you're more desired by other people. And you socializing while you're already in a relationship doesn't mean hitting on women, but being social in general and connecting to people, that's great for you. Andrew Huberman posted a video, I believe yesterday it was, on Instagram, where he interviews somebody where they talk about the subject of happiness. And one of the most effective things we can do to become more happy is to have social contact. Crazy news, I've been teaching this for years. Obviously, short-term social contact, even just like couple of interactions with security guard, with the Uber driver, with people in the gym, and approaches and family members. So the more you expand your comfort zone, the more you'll be able to connect to people, the happier you will be, and the more she will stay attracted to you. So we've already touched on this. The next point is overcoming fear. And Kind of already went into that because, as you realize, I don't really care about notes too much, but there were so many points, 14 points today that I wanted to go through, or including with a mountain, that I have already gone through that I'm filming again, that I needed a little bit of structure. So the way you overcome fear is either you change your state so rapidly, you do progressive desensitization, you jump into the deep end, or you change your beliefs. You change what you believe about what the negative outcome might be. What is the benefit you currently think you're deriving from not engaging with said subject matter? Let me touch on fear 1 or 2 more moments, because the thing that robs you of everything you want, this beautiful relationship, is ultimately fear. Fear of getting embarrassed in front of your colleagues or your friends, having an ego. What are people going to think of me if I ask for help in this area, perhaps? If I dedicate myself to taking dating apps seriously, what are people going to say if they see me on dating apps? What if they see me do an approach? What if they see me get a rejection? It's fear. Fear is what robs you. And so I would invite you to understand that in spirituality, there's only 2 emotions. There's love or fear, inspiration or desperation. You either come from a place of love or fear. All other emotions are basically derivatives of those. Anger, derivative of fear. Depression, sadness is a little bit different. Obviously, there's nuance to it. But in essence, it's a fear that you won't be loved or that you will lose something. Tony Robbins says there's less loss or never. We only suffer if we believe in the illusion of loss. If we think I have less of something, I lost something, or I'll never have something ever again. I would encourage you to reduce fear to an absolute minimum and then act despite of the fear. Don't depend on having 0 approach anxiety, 0 nervousness. Nervousness is just a sign that you're alive. And remember, you can't reframe anger into happiness. They're neurologically too different, physiologically. But from a bodily experience, physiologically speaking, fear and excitement, nervousness and excitement, they're so similar that you can reframe one as the other. So the next time you feel nervousness, you can actually tell yourself, I must be excited too. Oh, I'm a little bit nervous. That means I can't go and approach. That means I'm going to come across as weird. That means, again, the meaning you give it. What if you just say, oh, I'm a little bit nervous? Great, means I'm alive. Oh, I'm excited. I must be excited too. If you do this for the next 45 days, 17 times, your life will never be the same. You feel nervousness, you feel a little bit of anxiety, I must be excited too. Do some work to attack a challenge that I haven't attacked it, to go and introduce myself to this lady. I must be excited to get this rejection because I can live with the rejection. What I cannot live with is not knowing where this might have gone. Because chances are your wife already walked by several times. Good news is there's plenty of future wives for you, even though you're obviously only going to choose one. But there's so many potential partners for you that you'll never run out. So I'm not trying to push you into scarcity, but use the opportunities that present themselves to you. But you're only going to be able to do that if you don't buy into this fearful frame of mind. The more you're attached to that, the less likely that you'll take constructive action. So understand that it is just a habit. Being fearful, retreating is just a habit. You can act despite of the fear, and you can reframe it. You can say, I must be excited too. I must be excited to see where things go. I'm perfectly okay with getting a rejection. I'm not okay with not knowing where this went, because then my self-esteem takes a hit. Self-esteem is earned. It's esteem for yourself. It comes by doing the difficult thing. And I'm totally okay with getting rejection, as we talked about earlier. It's amazing. She does it for herself. So why should I be upset that she invests in herself? And she might not even know about me enough, right? Maybe it's the situation. Maybe a seagull took a shit on her earlier, and that's why she's not in a very receptive mood towards life at this point in time. But I will reframe it. And then if there's a little bit of approach anxiety left, I will do what I need to do, regardless of what's left. But you do want to reduce fear to an absolute minimum. Another tool that I want to offer you here is called Emotional Freedom Technique. Go to YouTube and look up a guy called Brad Yates, Y-A-T-E-S. There's a little fly. He is the single best emotional freedom technique teacher ever. I started tapping, is what it's called, when I was 14, 16 years of age. Basically what you do is you have certain affirmations, you have a setup, and then you tap on certain meridian points. Whether meridians are legit or not doesn't matter. You tap on certain pressure points and you affirm certain things, and it's proven to reduce cortisol, fear. And you'll be able to expand your zone of comfort and increase your confidence just by doing that. So I would highly encourage you to look up this guy's YouTube channel. He's a legend. He's one of my first personal development teachers. He is one of the best. It's an amazing tool that'll additionally boost your sense of confidence. Brad Yates on YouTube, Emotional Freedom Technique, because that will allow you to lower fear to an absolute minimum so you can enjoy life and connect more easily. I'm going to make a couple of more videos about fear, but that would be an hour, several hours, 10 hours in and of itself. Next one, excuses. When it comes to mastering your inner game, you have to refuse to buy into your excuses. Most men, they look at a challenge and they come up with an excuse. They say, I don't have the time. Nonsense. We all have 112 waking hours available to ourselves every single week. Dating apps don't work. They do. If a man in the world or somewhere in your country has been able to find a quality relationship from dating apps, you're going to be able to do that as well. Instagram, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how. There were times in your life where you didn't know how to do what you're doing in your career or your business, yet you're doing it successfully so. The how didn't hold you back. Don't fall victim to the tyranny of how. I think Tony Robbins called it 20 years ago. The tyranny of how. The how you're going to figure out. If you're actually committed, not just trying so you can tell yourself you did your best, but you're actually truly, fully 100% committed, you're going to find a way. A first strategy didn't work. Next. I've had so many mentors in business over the years. Some were amazing, some were really terrible. Who helped me with little things in marketing, little things in the business side, because all I always wanted to do was coach and help people with a personal development in their dating life. But then eventually you realize you have to build a business around it. So I was able to learn from really, really intelligent people. But it took quite a while to find the ones that I'm still with to this day who are real genius, who are helping me at the operational side of things so that I can focus on this. But you got to be willing to change your approach. You got to be willing to stick with it. In the end, you'll either have the result or you'll have an excuse. That's it. You're either going to have an amazing, beautiful, loving woman by your side, or you will have an excuse as to why it wasn't possible for you, and you will settle. Because somebody like you won't stay single for the rest of his life, but you will settle. And then you will live, as Henry David Thoreau calls it, a life of quiet desperation. Now, the quietness isn't really there anymore, is it? Most men's desperation is rather loud. It's on social media. You can see it in their face. Walk through a park. We're here in the south of Dublin in a park. And if you look most men in their eyes, you can see a sense of desperation. They're not really alive because their needs aren't met. Either because the relationship they're in isn't alive enough and they have to do something to renew it, but largely because they haven't chosen the person from the right quality options, because selection is almost everything. Whatever reason, whatever excuse you currently have, it is nonsense. You can find a quality relationship if you use dating apps, Instagram, and in-person approaches, and you work on your communication skills. You absolutely can. You just have to refuse to buy into your excuses. And we're all going to have excuse-like thoughts every once in a while. But again, are you going to believe the thought? Or are you just going to recognize it in the space of another words and say, the old excuses. Thank you for your opinion. I won't buy into them any longer. Masculinity. A subject in and of itself. Again, I'll make a longer video about this. Let me give you the 95-5. Not the 80-20, the 95-5. Let me give you the 5% that are going to give you 90% of the result. What masculinity ultimately means is certainty. Masculinity ultimately means certainty. I'm going to make a longer video where I go into detailed examples here on this YouTube channel on how this manifests itself, but it's mature certainty. It's not immature masculinity. We're trying to dominate somebody else. We're trying to have little ego battles. We're trying to leech off somebody to benefit from them. No. It is not dictating how somebody else should live their lives. No. It's not being a bad guy. None of that nonsense. It means bringing certainty to the situation and having an internal frame of reference. You validate your own spoken word. She has to at all times be more, not all times, but most of the time, be more emotionally reactive to you than you are to her. If you are too emotionally reactive to her, then she has to go into her masculine and she will end up hating you for it. If she's supposed to feel happy, if you want to meet her needs, she has to be in her feminine. And for her to be in her feminine, you have to be in your masculine. You have to be determined. You have to have an unreasonably high level of confidence. But that only works with the last component we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. It's extremely important that you add that one, so stay, because masculinity without the last component of this video today will cause destruction and harm. Mark my words. You want to bring certainty and you want to be able to say, let's. That's what leadership is in a relationship. And by the way, sometimes she's going to lead. If you never allow her to lead, you'll be in a relationship with a robot. You don't want that. You're not going to be a leader 100% of the time. If Fernanda says, David, I think we should do this, and I say, yeah, then she led in that situation. Am I a weak person now? Absolutely not. Because I want to be with somebody who is intellectually very capable. And Fernanda's got a master's degree from one of the best universities in Brazil. She's amazing. That's why the last 5 years have been so awesome with her. Because not only do we love each other and the physical intimacy is great and the emotional intimacy is great, but she has points of views regarding social dynamics, regarding business, regarding life that I wouldn't have previously thought of. So I need to allow her to lead at certain points. But overall, that's your role as a leader, largely. And again, it does never mean telling her what to do. It means saying, let's go here. And she's like, I'm not sure if we should go. Let's go. If she doesn't want to, no problem. We're going to have a negotiation. I'm happy to go to the sushi restaurant if she would prefer that as opposed to pizza. No problem. But say let's. Which dress do you prefer? Pick one, even if you don't care at all. Pick one, because she needs to have an opinion. Having a strong opinion, expressing a strong opinion unapologetically in a kind and respectful way is insanely attractive. Next, optimism. Optimists win, pessimists fail. By default, that's true. Now, pessimists are almost always more accurate in their own self-assessment, but optimists in the long term will succeed, because for you to be able to start the business you have, to get to the job where you're at, to be where you're at in your hobby or whatever area you have succeeded in your life, you have to be optimistic. You have to believe that it was going to work. Optimism means having a belief that it will work. And sometimes you have to ground that belief simply in a vision. You visualize, that creates emotional certainty, and then you just tell yourself that you can with affirmations or incantations. You really have to believe. And people say, you know what? I'm more of a realist. No, you're a pessimist. You're gutless. You're afraid to put yourself out there because what if you fail? What are people going to think of me if I fail? That's ultimately what pessimism and realism comes down to. Gary Vee says when people say, oh, I'm keeping it real. Yeah, you're keeping it real negative. Who says that being a pessimist is more authentic than being an optimist? You didn't need a reason to feel bad. So why do you need a reason to feel good? Why do you need a reason to enjoy life to its fullest? Why do you need a reason to be confident? Just make it up. Just decide. It is beneficial for you and everybody around you to live in the best state possible. You'll be able to create attraction and connection and penetrate the world with your gifts as a man in a much healthier way if you come from such a place of optimism. You won't even be able to find somebody if you don't believe it's possible. So if you have a little bit of realism left in you, I would encourage you to let that go. Because there will come a time in your life, my friend, where your balls are wrinkly, you're 95 or 150 years of age, and you look back down on your body and you haven't made love to anybody in the last 30 years, and you're going to regret not playing full out. Brandon Burchard says at the end of our life, we're going to ask ourselves 3 questions. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? Are you really going to be proud of being realistic when you die? Most people who are very realistic, they forget that they're going to die. You will die. There will come a day where this right now, this experience of consciousness will be the last. If you're lucky, unless you get hit by the bus. And then it's over instantaneously, but it is what it is at that stage. So what I would encourage you to do is understand that playing full out is no more risky than not. Playing it safe is actually the riskiest thing you can do, because you will rob yourself of all the joy and the depth that life has to offer. And the last component is kindness. That's what masculinity has to be paired with. That is the base for everything. Kindness towards yourself, loving kindness, loving awareness, and for other people. The more you can make an effort to engage with people in a kind way, the more you will instantly feel at home. Networking is nonsense. You're not supposed to be kind to people because you're expecting something in return. You're supposed to be kind to people because it's good for them. It's good for you, and you'll have a connection in the moment, and you don't know what the person went through. So the more you can foster a sense of kindness within you, the more you will attract that type of woman into your life. Put these pieces into practice and you'll master your inner game. Mastering your inner game obviously goes a lot longer. Like, I could talk about this for 10 hours, not just 1 hour, but I hope this was super valuable to you today. If you want me to help you personally find the right girlfriend or wife in 2025, apply for a free initial consultation. Looking forward to speaking with you soon. Take care.